Happy November 23rd, 2020. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on today's show, I'm pleased to have the second-year head coach for the Lewis Mills boys basketball program, Ryan Raponey. Ryan, it's great to have you on, man.
Chris, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
No problem, buddy. I think first and foremost, I want to say, even though the wins may not have been what you wanted in your first season with Lewis Mills, the fact that you got the program to the playoffs, I think is a successful season, especially being a first-year head coach and then being able to be a part of now what is the CCC with Lewis Mills. But you being with Bristol Eastern, which we'll get to in a second, you know about the CCC.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much in my coaching career at Bristol Eastern for 9 seasons. It was really the only league that I knew. So getting in there as the head coach in my first season, I was very familiar with most of my opponents. I was really more familiar with my opponents than I was my own group of players at the beginning of the season. So I was really getting to know them, and getting to adjust to them as they adjusted to my style of coaching. And I knew how to plan for the opponents, but I just didn't know how we were going to approach each and every one of them on a given night. And thankfully, about mid-season, we were able to really start figuring it out on our end. And really, make some hay in the league and post some wins and then qualify for the tournament, which was just a great experience to have the opportunity to get there. Unfortunately, we couldn't play our game, but, it was just a great overall first year.
Now, when you look at kind of, being a first-year head coach for any sport, no matter what it is, there's always going to be some sort of an adjustment period just because the players have to get used to you. You have to get used to them and see, okay, does my system work? What doesn't work? How am I going to adjust? And same for the players. For you in your first season, how long did it take for both you and the players to kind of come together, I guess, kumbaya kind of moment where things started to get rolling?
Thankfully for me, I had a really good group of kids. My seniors were very unselfish, respectful, really coachable players. And my younger guys were very hungry. Not a ton of varsity experience in the group, but they started to gain that, very early in the season. We were kind of baptized into the CCC with playing Avon in our first game. Really good coach over there, and they had a really talented player in Jack Hall who had a great night against us, and we just really struggled to get it going. But I thought where it clicked was honestly when they came to practice 2 days later and had to get a quick turnaround to get prepared for a Bristol Central team who has, one of the top players in the state in Donovan Klingen. And we go over to Bristol Central and we had to play there. And it was like right before Christmas Eve. And that's when everybody starts coming out and watching games. And it was a pretty packed house, part of a doubleheader. We were doing a nice thing with the girls programs in a Project Purple night. But so walking in there, I didn't really know what to expect after, we had just kind of gotten it handed to us pretty well, but they bounced back so quickly. They made the adjustments necessary that we had talked about at practice and just performed. And I saw a lot of hope kind of in that one game. I know we came up short and we didn't pull out the victory, but I knew that we could compete at a high level in that league that night. And, as we continued to inch closer to getting wins and just not getting over the hump, they really, really stayed the course. Any other group could have maybe started to see some doubt, like, hey, what are we doing? We're not winning. He's working us hard, but we're not winning. But they really stayed with it. And I was just proud of them that night. And it continued on, even though we didn't get a win for 6 games. It just kept going in the right direction. I always felt like we were going to turn it around.
It's not how you start, but how you finish. And I think for Lewis Mills, you finished strong. And again, you were able to make the playoffs. I know not being able to get far in your first season was something where, it is what it is, but it's building blocks. You know what I mean? But I think, kind of looking at the landscape of the program itself and kind of the players, did you notice any kind of, because coming from the CCC, how the game is played. And the Berkshire League plays, their brand of basketball. CCC kind of has their own. So did it take any sort of adjustment for the players to get used to how the CCC is?
Well, and no disrespect to the Berkshire League. We have teams on our schedule that we play from the Berkshire League, and one of them caught us last year. And there's some really good coaches in the league. There's some really good talent, but I think Lewis Mills was a big dog in that league in terms of, hey, they were a bigger school. They had kind of the target on their back, and they maybe got up for a few games here and there during the course of their season where, I told them when I took over, the CCC, it's like you can't be sleeping on anybody. And they needed to bring their A game every night just to compete, I thought. That was how I looked at it. That's how we approached it. And once we were able to start doing that, we were able to make the adjustment to just every single night you have a real quality talented opponent, on your hands that, you may not have more talent than, but in order to compete with them, you got to do the little things. And I think once we really started doing that and made the adjustment to that around mid-season, we started to see it come together a little bit more for us.
Now, a question I forgot to ask before your time with Lewis Mills, as far as you being with Bristol Eastern, and kind of, you know, I know just from having family in Bristol and knowing, broadcasting, because I used to broadcast with the, Bristol Blues. I know the story history of Bristol. I could name talented players from the football program to the baseball program to cross country, you name it. So being a part of that, do you think it kind of in some ways sped up your coaching path? Because I feel like being around so much talent, both from the players to the coaches, your mind kind of, grows a little bit quicker because you're around so many cerebral people.
Yeah, I really think growing up, in Bristol with my upbringing around the coaches that I was just brought up around. I mean, I was going to Bristol Eastern basketball games since I was a kid. My mother would take me to the games. My father would take me down to practice. My godfather was the head coach there, for over 30 years. Mike Giovinazzo. He's in the Coaches Hall of Fame and coached baseball and basketball. So I had the opportunity, when I was really young, to be around the high school program and to see how things worked. I wish I could talk more about my playing career and how great that was. I had a great experience coming up through the program and playing with some really, talented guys and good guys that I'm still friends with here today. But my future, I felt like was going to be in coaching, and I really started preparing myself for that when I left high school. Going to Southern Connecticut, getting my degree in phys ed, and becoming a teacher and just going down that path. I actually refereed basketball before I started coaching it, and I'm still on, IABO Board 6. Got a lot of good friends on the board. My father's been an official for 30 years. And I was doing games, and then when the opening happened at Bristol Eastern, the freshman job, I got reached out by, not just my godfather, but also the other coaches on the staff who really encouraged me to get involved with the program because, I still went to the games. I was still rooting for those guys. And it was just nice to have a chance to go back and settle in and learn from, not only Coach Giovinazzo, but Coach Bunty Ray, who took the program over after Coach G retired, and just being under him for 3 years and then coaching with DJ Parent, who's a good friend of mine, who's been on the staff for 10 years plus as well. It's just good being around those guys and having an opportunity to, not only learn the game, but, make a few mistakes in it, as well as you're coming up. And it's just, I think it put me in a really good position to be ready to take over my own program.
Being able, like we mentioned, taking over your own program, having success in the first season, I'm sure you were amped up getting ready for what could be a second season. And then COVID happens. And I understand COVID happened in March, and I'm sure basketball, maybe it was on your mind at that point, like, oh, are we going to play? But the unknown of the virus. And then now we know what it is. Basketball, all winter sports, has been postponed until at least January 19th. And the committee, the board will talk over, I think, a few days prior to see if things can be played. But, talking with you, and you and I have texted back and forth numerous times, and, great conversation. You brought up some really great points. One in particular, I even brought up on a couple episodes I had ago about how you brought up with Lewis Mills and the fact that the school closed, but not because of an outbreak, but because of the lack of teachers and substitute teachers and so forth. And I think That's a great point that you make, coach, because that's something that a lot of people don't really think of. Because when I see, like when I would see a school closing, I would think, oh, there was an outbreak, but no. So can you expand on that a little bit for maybe people who don't understand?
Yeah, I mean, and just going back to when COVID first started, I mean, so I also coach baseball at Plainville High School with Lou Mandeville, who's been a varsity coach there for years and has also been a very good, mentor to me in my coaching career. But we unfortunately lost our baseball season, and a lot of those kids didn't have the opportunity, to play. And I'd hate to really see that again for our seniors at Lewis Mills now in basketball. But I also am a teacher in another district. And what happens in our district is, when we do have a certain amount of cases that are contracted outside of the school environment, it ends up quarantining certain teachers that had them in class while they still, possess the, disease in school. And then the school doesn't have enough subs. So that's what happens when you see these shutdowns sometimes. Schools go full remote. They just don't have the staff there to support while people are in quarantines. Um, Not saying that it's not out there, because we know it definitely is. It's starting to hit closer to home, I think, to people every single day, and it's really unfortunate. I really hope that whatever we're doing right now with the distancing and wearing masks, I fully support all of it, and I hope that it can help kind of slow down the spread and put us in a position to come back. But yeah, it's a whole nother group of challenges that you're facing now, not only as a coach but as a teacher. All teachers and all school systems alike, I think they really want to see the kids play. I don't think anybody's out there saying no, we don't want to see them play this year. But there are a lot of challenges, and we're hoping that the people that are at the top can get some things figured out, and hopefully give us an opportunity.
There's been some great ideas thrown out from various people, from broadcasters, reporters, writers. There's been one writer in particular from the day, first name Mike. I can't say his last name, so I don't want to butcher it. But he
Okay.
brought up a good point about how you have 40 people in the gym, you have X number of players, coaches, staff, medical people, media, so on and so forth, and then you clean the gym. But the reason why I'm saying that is, at least, because considering what we dealt with as far as with the fall and with football and all that turmoil, I think at some point, and I've said this on numerous episodes, where at some point we have to not move on, but move forward. We can't continue to hide and stay in a bubble, because this thing is going to be around, even with the vaccine. It's going to be around for at least another year, 2 years, who knows how long, but at least for the foreseeable future. So the point I'm trying to make is, and I think, Mike brought up a great point from the day, is that he has an idea. It's something, it's a plan. And then, just like how you had the ECC with the alternative league football, that was a plan. It turned into something, and it was a success. So at least with with Mike's idea, it's something.
Yeah, and as a coach, I'm always looking out there for the most recent news and information that's coming forward. Anything that could kind of give us hope, and to keep telling the student athletes, hey, let's not give up on this, because I do have a few football players, that unfortunately, tried to stay hopeful at the beginning of the fall when they were, telling them that they would have the opportunity, and then they were told, well, no, you're not going to have the opportunity. So they were very disappointed, and we all understand where they're coming from, and at the same time, I do understand where the school districts are at. Like I said, it's going to be a challenge for them, but I like when people can, get together and come up with plans, and see if they're feasible, see if we could make something work. Basketball, hey, 5-on-5 in the gym. We have a great fan section at Lewis Mills too. I just want to, shout out the Thunderdome, and it makes it so exciting to play our home games there. It would be disappointing not to have them there this year, but the reality is I don't think it's going to be possible to have too many people in the gym, right? So we just want the opportunity to play, and if people could come up with ideas and kind of make things happen, that people are going to accept and let us move forward with, I mean, I'd be willing to give it a try.
Ryan, I really do appreciate you coming on. I do have one more question for you, real quick. It's in regards to the mask wearing. As far as, if there is a season, basketball players will have to wear a mask while they're playing. Now, I know this has been done in other I think other leagues, other teams around the state, around the country. So it is being done. And it seems like it's not affecting the athletes too much because I know, at least from what I've read from other states, they're giving the teams extra either timeouts, media timeouts. After 4 minutes, there's a break so that the players can breathe and get water and so forth. I think as a coach, I just want to get your take on that because as a broadcaster, I think it's a great idea. But for a coach, you're on the sideline, you're right there, you see everything, and I just want to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, so I think if that's what we have to do to play, I'm all for it, 100%. If I talk to the players, they would say they're all for it too. I believe it is an adjustment. Um, I've run some camps and clinics, with some younger kids where they've worn the masks, and you could tell they get a little bit more tired a little bit quickly. But you give them the breaks. You make sure that they're still hydrating and doing the things that they need to do with social distance. Um, we did have some fall leagues going on in the state, I believe, where mask wearing was mandating that. Hey, it's an adjustment period, but I think we can get through it. As coaches, if we got to make an adjustment in practice, and we got to take some longer breaks, we got to have shorter time periods of which where we're really going at it hard. And in games, if we got to play a few more players to make sure that guys are getting adequate rest during the course of the game, well, that's what we'll have to do. And the game is always changing, and this is just another thing that's going to change the game, for us coaches and players. But we got to make adjustments if we want to make it happen.
Ryan, I really do appreciate you coming on. You're welcome to come back on anytime, regardless if there's a season, if there's not, it doesn't matter. You can come back on anytime because I'd love to be able to talk about more about the Lewis Mills program. And if there isn't a season, then we can really talk about the program and give the seniors the respect that they deserve.
That would be great, Chris. I'd really appreciate that. Thank you for having me on today. This was a great experience.
No problem. Anytime. I'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. And remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm on a journey to find them all. Have a good one, everybody. Be well.